E-
Que, telewisi ipit genekalabit kipu, wedje mawiomi gobit ipit ekbuin. Hey there, my name is Shihusi Spar like the eagle. I'm from the Mi'kmaq First Nation Beaver Clan, and I'm from Listuguj. I'm living currently in Southern Ontario, and I'm a traditional healer from within my nation and within my community here. So today I'd like to talk a little bit about reciprocal healing and what that means through an Indigenous lens, through how we see the world as Indigenous people. And I'd like to be able to share that with you today. So first off, I'd like for you to have an image in your mind first, before we go on any further. Think about for a moment that you're walking outside and you're walking into your garden and you're going up to your tomato plant and you're looking at your tomato plant. And from looking at your tomato plant, you're able to tell the condition of that tomato plant based on what's around it, right? Based on the soil condition, based on whether it's getting enough water, based on how much other plants are growing around it, what sort of bugs are around it, what kind of light it's getting. Is there a black walnut tree growing close by, creating acidity into the earth, causing it not to feel so good, and maybe not grow it well at all. So we can easily understand as gardeners that we can look at our plants in our garden and understand that it's sitting in a symbiotic relationship. And that symbiotic relationship surrounds it by everything that's involved. If the leaves, they're starting to turn a little brown on the tips, we know it needs some water. We need to water that plant. But what we don't sometimes make the leap into seeing is that as human beings, that we too live in a symbiotic relationship with everything that's around us, whether we recognize that or not. So what I would like to do with you today is I want to walk us through real briefly, because this can take quite a bit of time to go through in in-depth detail, the medicine wheel from my perspective and how I see different healing modalities and connection pieces that fit in throughout our medicine wheel, the physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional well-being of the human being. So if you have never seen a medicine wheel, we have a round circle split into 4. And the premise is that you're at the very center of that. And around you is your own personal wellness, physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and what makes that up for the human being. So as, very complicated plants, how do we look at our own symbiotic relationships around us, engage where we're at in our wellness walk? So I'd like to start in the East because Wabanaki, we're the people of the dawn, and I love starting in the East. It's the beginning. It's where, your childhood begins. There's many different layers of the medicine wheel, and we won't have time to talk about everything, but I do want to just real briefly give you an idea of what that looks like. Okay, so this is the time where, we're born, we're young children. Things that might happen to us within that time frame will affect our whole medicine wheel. Within that, we have a relationship. So as Indigenous people, for Mi'kmaq people, we see people as he or she who peels themselves up from the earth and walks upright. Because we understand something. We understand that we are made up of the minerals of the earth. We are made up of the things that have come together in marriage to make the human being possible. And in the East, we look at the air and we look at how is it that we have a relationship with air. And so I want to bring your attention right now to your breath, because this is how we start to develop that relationship with air, is realizing that how are we breathing? If you take a look at a newborn baby, that breath will come from the lower part of the stomach of that child, because naturally we're born that way. This is the way we're supposed to breathe. Our lungs are supposed to expand nice and deep and low, And into our stomach, it should be pushing out. So I want you to think about that for a second and really kind of determine in yourself, where are you breathing? You know, if you're breathing up here, and a lot of adults do, because we're going too fast in society. Things are happening too quickly, and people end up breathing up here, and it will affect your health and wellness. It will affect your relationship with that element of air. I mean, try being without air for a few minutes. Not nice. It's important. So how important is it to get that oxygen into our bloodstream and into our brain to function optimally, right? So remembering those deep breaths, remembering to, you know, I'll give you a little breathing technique you can try to really try to expand out your lungs again and start to work with the element of air. So breathing in 4 times, holding it for a count of 4, and then breathing out 4 times. And you will, so when you're breathing in 4 times, you're going to hold it and put some pressure on your breath, because you'll fill up all the way up to your throat. So it goes like this. You breathe all the way out. You're breathing in, you're pressurizing into your lungs, and you're getting that oxygen back into your body. And this is a real important part of wellness. So also part of the Eastern doorway when we look at the medicine wheel is our mind, right? So I had said earlier, physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional. Well, our mental well-being, we take a look at that in this section of the medicine wheel too. You know, are your thoughts running wild? You know, are you able to sit for just a few minutes with a quiet mind? And this is going to be important for your whole medicine wheel, because you are attracting everything that's going through your mind. You're creating a vibrational field. So taking time to calm the mind and find ways to calm the mind, settle the energy. As Mi'kmaq people, we love sweetgrass. Sweetgrass is a traditional medicine given to us by the Creator. And this is what it looks like when it's growing like this, just like a grass. And there's a ceremony in which to braid it into this. And we burn that sweetgrass as part of our medicines in cleansing our mind, our body, our emotions. So this is really important to think about what works for you. You can try sweetgrass for yourself. It helps ground down all the energy fields that are around you. Okay, and there's a few medicines that will go. There's medicine in each one sections of this medicine wheel teaching, and I'll show you what that looks like. We'll go through that. Okay, so your mental well-being, you know, you can be the observer just for a few minutes a day, just 5 minutes a day. You don't have to follow the thoughts. You don't have to create scenarios out of the thoughts. Just be the observer for just a few minutes where you're just watching, okay? Watching your thoughts. And then once you're paying attention to it, then you're going to be able to determine, okay, this is not serving me. These thoughts are not serving me of who I want to be. And creating who you want to be, looking inside of yourself to help feed your mental well-being, having a visual that's around you, defining yourself in positive words, really, really important to feed into your mental wellness. We don't have much time. I'm going to go on to the south. This is our youth time of our life. That's sage. This is oops, I'm sorry. Where we go. We got some sage here. Sage is in that section of the medicine wheel. And it's about our body, and it's about our passion and our fire inside of us. And really kind of seeing like, how are we working with our elements of earth within this section of our medicine wheel? How are we reflecting the earth within our own body? You know, if we took out the minerals, we couldn't be alive. That's in our body. We need minerals from the earth in order to feel balanced, in order for things to function properly. We are truly children of the earth. You know, oftentimes we can use the earth to reground. back our energy to a place where it's in alignment with earth energy. Because we come from the earth, we have to vibrate at that frequency. And in order to do that, we have to plug back in, and that Mother Earth can help ground us in our energy. I see people all the time in sessions, and so many people have so many different types of symptoms, and they don't realize that sometimes it comes down to a few different minerals that they're missing in their diet that can cause them to have sleeplessness, the muscle spasms, the grinding of the teeth, the depression, the anxiety. Check your magnesium levels. Have your doctor check your magnesium levels. It's responsible for so much of your own personal wellness that sometimes we overlook those simple things. So we want to also look at our physical well-being. What do we do to improve our physical well-being besides, grounding down our energy and, making sure our minerals and vitamins are at the level where they're supposed to be at? There's a few different things that I recommend to people to consider. A couple of times a year in the spring and in the fall, it's common within my nations that we do fasts and cleanses, where we clean out our system. And this can be done in many different ways and done to suit you from where you're at, but it's something to consider of how can that look like for you, where you're dedicating that time for a cleanse, cleaning out the intestines, cleaning out your lymphatic system, making sure that you're paying some level of attention. And then the attention has to be on, okay, my food intake. What does it look like? How do I know whether this is a food that's good for me or it's a food that's not good for me? That, too often it's different for every single person. So here's a trick that you can do before you are going to eat something and you want to know whether it's going to be causing an inflammatory response in your body, because we don't want inflammatory responses in the body. That's the seat of unwellness. So take your blood pressure, take your wrist, take your blood pressure. There's even apps you can download on your phone, and see what it is before you eat that item. 20 minutes later, take it again. And if your blood pressure has gone up, you're experiencing an inflammatory response to that food, and you might want to put it away for a while. Okay. And if you do that and you go through the foods that you're eating, you can learn to navigate this and be in balance and in harmony with what really truly feeds your body. Okay. There's many other things that we would talk about if we were going to spend a lot more time with this, but we don't have time today to go into everything. So let's go into the West. This is our adult time of life. The medicine that we put here is the cedar. And so oftentimes we'll take cedar and we'll make cedar tea, we'll make cedar baths, and we'll cleanse ourselves energetically with that as well, which is really important. This is where our emotions are located in our medicine wheel. And this is the element of water and how water affects the human being and our symbiotic relationship with water. What does that look like? Are we paying attention to that? So I love talking about Dr. Emoto's research, because he comes up and talks about the things that as traditional people we've always known, but it makes it easier for people to have that visual. So he did the research on the molecular structure of water and what it looks like when we bring the emotions into play with water. So what he's showing is that if it's negative emotions, the structure of water is not beautiful. And it's not, you have to have a look at the research and see. And when you look at when they put the water with love and gratitude and compassion and joy, that it's very, very beautifully structured. And it's very geometrical. It's very healing water. And you can do that experiment yourself to see, we put a little rice in some water, be really, bad words to this one and really good words to this one, and just see how fast the rice rots. So you can kind of see, well, how that works. And I think that we need to talk about that right now, because, just like the earth, we are a percentage of water as human beings. And if you took all the water out, we'd be dust. We couldn't live. So there's a sacred, fundamental relationship that we have with water. So time to pay attention to that. So if we're able to structure water from our emotions in a cup, how are we structuring our own water within our body? And we need to sit with that for a minute. So our self-talk, the things that we're watching on TV, the people that we're choosing to be around, how we're feeling when we're around those people will affect our own structure of water. And this is an important piece for our own personal healing. You can move towards healing yourself with structuring your own water yourself. Okay, so that self-talk and working with that. And just like that leaf on the tomato plant, where at the very end and it was all dry, and you can see, okay, that needs to be watered. That makes sense. Well, the human being, the edges of our leaves, those are our heels. So take off your shoes, take off your socks, take a look at the edge of your heels. And if they're all dry and crusty, you're not drinking enough water. And the kind of water, it matters. You want structured water. You want water that is healthy and whole and healing. So I would encourage you to do a little research into what is structured water and how do I get that? Old school, we will use even copper, and then we'll use these in our ceremonies because it structures water. Okay, so this is how you can start to embrace your own healing and take clues from your own body and your own relationship with the elements that make up the human being. If you find out you have a lot of emotional things going on inside that you don't want to carry with you anymore, I'll give you a little thing that you can try on your own and see how it works for you. A lot of people have gotten a lot of good success from this. So take a red piece of ribbon or a red string or a red piece of material that's long, and think of 7 problems that you have, 7 things that you no longer wish to carry in your heart and in your emotions. And what we do as Indigenous people is we'll take a little bit of tobacco, just a little tiny pinch, and this is traditional tobacco, and we'll put a little bit in and we'll knot up 7 knots within this string. Put 7 knots in there with a little bit of tobacco with it. And for each knot that you're making, what is it you want to get rid of? What is it you no longer want to carry? What do you want to move along that it no longer is serving you? And it doesn't mean that those things never happened, but it does mean that you wish to not carry that heavy energy anymore. So you can take that. Now, once you've done that, 7 problems, you can burn it. You can put it into the water for the water to take away. You can bury it. But in some way, you need to move it along from your life. So there's a little piece that you can try yourself at home. We're going to move over to the north section. This is in our senior or elder time of our life. The plant here is, tobacco tried to jump in here earlier. This is tobacco. Tobacco is a beautiful, beautiful plant. Sacred, really, really sacred. There's different levels of consciousness in plants. There's the plants that we eat. There's the plants that we use for medicines. And then for us, we understand that there's another level of plants that are master plants. And master plants are teachers, and they can communicate. They are able to bridge the gap. And tobacco in particular knows how to bridge the gap between our spirit and the spirits of other things, other plants, other stones, other animals, other spirits. And so oftentimes we use the tobacco, but not, it's very, very sacred. So we don't take that very lightly. So master plant, very cool stuff. We also see chaga, which grows on birch bark. I'll show you a little piece of it like that. And this is a very powerful, powerful fungus for wellness. That's also in the medicines of the North. So this is when we're looking at our spiritual well-being in our life, and what does that look like? How can we nurture our spiritual well-being? So you don't have to be Indigenous to feel like, to follow along with this. Insert into this section whatever it is that feeds your passion, that makes you feel better, full of love, full of light, full of compassion, full of joy, connecting to that divine energy. Whatever that is for you, then that's what you should do. So a few things that we see for that section of the medicine wheel is coming into a state of gratitude. And if you've ever heard of any of our prayers or opening things, you'll hear us saying thank you a lot. We're raising up our energetic field, because our helper spirits and creator, they vibrate at that frequency of love, of gratitude, of joy. And so we want to align ourselves with that. And so we raise ourselves up with gratitude. We raise ourselves up with songs and singing and drumming and rattling. Raise ourselves up and each other up with our dance, with round dance and, our ceremonial dances. So, things that I think that are important from my perspective of things that I'm able to do to help people is, this is the kind of time that you look at, okay, are all the pieces in place for me spiritually? Because sometimes pieces of our soul will will leave when there's been trauma throughout our lives. And you might feel like something's not quite right, something is not quite whole. And those are the pieces that I'm able to bring back. Or you have trauma that's happened throughout your life. That was our timer. Trauma that's happened throughout your life, and those energies get stuck inside, and we need to bring those back out again. So it's just you again. So some of the spiritual work that I do to help people, that's included in that. So this was a really, really quick, let's go real quick around the medicine wheel. Let's see how we can connect to the various elements in our physical, mental, spiritual well-being. I would encourage you to think about each section of your own medicine wheel and think about one thing that you can do for yourself on a daily basis to nourish your own well-being, physically, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. Think about that, write it down, post it up, and see if that makes a difference in moving forward with your own wellness plans. Everybody, everything has its own medicine wheel, even if it's not human. Everything's got its own medicine wheel, and everything wants to live its life that the Creator gave it. So with that, I say Walalin, Walaliak. I'm very grateful to be able to come in and continue my family's work. I come from a very long line of Buin, of healers and seers within my family to before contact. And there's my great, 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 great grandmother. Just share that with you, Madeline Datum. And it means a lot to me to be able to continue our teachings and my ancestors' wisdom. So, Wilalin, I would love to connect with you. If you would like to speak more, you can reach out to me on Facebook at Eagle Vision Medicines, and I'd love to talk further. So, Wilalia, at Lewistus.